Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. Hey, so I'm at Cottage Gardens at Petaluma today. I was wandering around my rose area here and I got asked a whole bunch of questions about climbing roses today that really got me thinking that needs to be today's topics. And as you can see, I've got plenty of climbing roses that happen to be my favorites. So I've planted them either in ground or in containers. And I'm going to share every single one of those with you in a little while. But in the meantime, let's chat about what is a climbing rose. Obviously, these are not climbing roses. So what makes a climbing rose so special and different from something like this? Well, these are miniature roses for a start. They don't get any bigger than about 2 feet tall by 2 feet wide. And a climbing rose, oh my goodness, some climbing roses can get as big as a bus, honest to goodness. You think about, some of the ones I'm going to tell you about in a little while, they can be enormous. So a climbing rose is a rose variety that sends out long arching canes and gets out of bounds, unlike these little minis or unlike your classic hybrid teas. Some of the climbing roses have come from a regular hybrid tea and is known as a sport, when suddenly there's some long arching cane or another arching cane that is getting 10 feet long as opposed to the 2 or 3 that its parent used to have. So luckily for us, climbing roses became really popular back in the day, and breeders got a hold of the idea and started breeding for that strong, upright, fan out against a fence kind of a look, which is absolutely fabulous because it gives us a whole other dimension to plant in. You've got a fence that is bare and boring, plant a climbing rose against it. You've got a pillar going straight up that needs some brightening up, some color. Plant a pillar rose, which is a kind of a climbing rose that basically goes straight up. Plant a pillar rose. You got a pergola that you want color all over and fragrance when you're walking through. A climbing rose totally fits the bill. Now I've got my favorites here at Cottage Gardens, which I'm about to share with you. I've got a few more at home, and I keep discovering new climbers, and new climbing roses keep getting bred, that it is a fabulous world that we can all discover. It's like the original vertical gardening too. They go straight up. Some of them have color all the way from the ground to the sky. It is absolutely fabulous. And they are no harder to grow than any regular rose. The pruning is a little bit different because you're trying to maintain that look against the fence or up the pillar or what have you. And I have a couple of pruning videos out there for you to track down and find. Obviously, middle of May is not when you're going to be doing your pruning. Middle of winter is when you do your pruning. So don't get too excited about those videos, but refer to them when it is pruning time. What else is so special about climbing roses? There's a whole world of them. And there are climbing roses with tiny little roses. There are climbing roses with big, massive roses, like Polka, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. There's climbing roses with fragrance. There's climbing roses that are perfect for cutting. It is a fabulous world of roses, and I can't wait to share it with you. Altissimo is one of my absolute favorite roses, never mind favorite climbing roses. It's super intense, dark red, really pops against the really dark foliage. It's very disease resistant. It's super healthy. It's been around a long time, and it's very straight and upright. You'd almost call it a pillar rose, which is really one kind of climbing rose that just kind of grows straight up rather than all over the place. And it is quite amazing. Look at this rose. Almost time to deadhead because I want a whole other flush of blooms from it. But look at this. Big single red petals, all surrounding a little golden cluster of stamens, and super floriferous. Now the way you want to support your climbing rose, I'll talk about that in a minute. But climbing roses in general, they don't twine like a green bean. They don't have tendrils like a sweet pea. They are just very long arching canes that you need to support somehow. So we have different ways of supporting our climbing roses. As you can see, Altissimo right here, it's up against a wooden barn. And the way we are keeping it trained up, apart from its natural, very stiff, upright growth habit, is that we have staples in the barn and zip ties very loosely around the canes to make sure we're directing it up and not out and slapping us in the face as we pass by. So yes, we're going to talk about my favorites. Altissimo is one of them, and here it is. You can totally see why. This brings me to another really, really popular, for really good reason, climbing rose. This beauty right here is Polka rose. Incredibly vigorous, and you can see the difference in growth habit from Altissimo over there, which is very stiffly upright, and Polka right here, which tends to come out a little bit more. Very vigorous though. I mean, we have to prune it back to keep it not going another 5 feet straight up in the air. And I've got one at my house too, which is just beautiful, very, very bushy. So we end up having to do a lot more pruning out this way than we would ever have to do with Altissimo. But what's so great about Polka? Why do we love it so much? First off, look at the buds on Polka. Absolutely amazing. They're beautifully pointed. They're ever so slightly ruffled. The stems are really long, just like a hybrid tea. So these roses make excellent cut flowers. And then when they open up, oh my goodness, they are ruffled, apricot, peachy. I mean, just feast your eyes. You tell me what color you think Polka is. But not only are the blooms absolutely amazing, the foliage is really disease resistant. It's incredibly vigorous. I mean, look, it speaks for itself, this beautiful rose. Talk about vigorous. And just easy to grow. So, you know how much I love David Austin roses, right? Well, originally, many of the David Austin roses were just bred for their flower form, for their fragrance, which was amazing. And we would plant them, like Gertrude Jekyll used to be classified just as a shrub. But my goodness, that is now definitely one of my favorite climbers ever. And many more over time, especially here in Northern California, turned out to be so much happier trained up because they are vigorous. They love our climate. And here's one I wanted to show you right here. This absolute beauty, I've got trained up and over. I've got them one on each side, trained up and over this arbor right here. And this one is Bathsheba. It is really, really so fragrant, so lovely, and just the perfect climber. And the way we've got it trained is I twist it in and out of this arbor when the foliage is young. And if any of it gets too vigorous in here, I just clip it off. It too needs a little bit of deadheading, but you can really see why I planted it. Something I really love too about climbing roses in general, and especially these super fragrant ones, when you train it up and over something like this, you get the fragrance right at nose level. It is so darn perfect, it's ridiculous. So let's wander on through here. And seriously, the training isn't much. They want to get big. They send out these big, long, arching canes so quickly and so easily with very little encouragement. You really just have to stay up on top of the attaching to whatever surface that you wanted them to be attached to. And over here, we've got Crown Princess Margareta. A little bit more intense in color. We had a little bit of a heat wave last week, so some of them are a little blown out, but it is such a pretty one. At my house, I have used obelisks, those large obelisks, to train not Crown Princess Margareta, but carding mill into a pillar. I'll share that with you a little bit later in the video too, and it's just great. So it looks like I'm growing these in containers. these are open to the ground. So it gives it access to the ground beneath. It's completely open to the ground, but it gave it that little lift, and I love the look up against those rusty arbors. But that doesn't mean you can't grow a climbing rose in a container. In fact, we've done just that back here with climbing Westerland. Westerland is another absolute beloved favorite. You got orange and peach and all kinds of colors here. And it is in a container. Now this is a large container, I totally admit, but it's not open to the ground. And Westerland is reaching its full height, full potential, and it's as happy as can be. Again, it needs a little deadheading. We're about a week away from deadheading it to encourage a whole other flush of blooms. And just like any container rose, you want to stay really up on top of the watering and the feeding to make sure it's getting all the nutrients it needs to really push all that growth and all those blossoms. Just in case you're intimidated by the thought of you running out of space or your soil is kind of iffy, you can grow a climbing rose in a container. So where are we with my favorites? We've got Altissimo, we've got Polka, we've got Bathsheba and Crown Princess Margareta. I have a really pretty violet colored one that I would like to share with you. I just got a little distracted because a bluebird just flew into our bluebird house. Super cool. Obviously has babies. Part of my whole integrated pest management thing. They swoop down, they catch the bad bugs, they feed them to their babies. It's so cool. We cannot pass by beloved Sally Holmes without mentioning her at least. She's finished with her main first flush of blooms. There's a ton of buds coming on. Doesn't look fabulous right this second, but up here you can really see why we love Sally Holmes so much. It doesn't even look like a rose hardly. All these big, wide, open-faced blooms. I've got some old photos for sure I will show you of Sally Holmes that you'll see why we love her so much. And talk about disease resistance. You know, if you're a new gardener or any kind of a gardener, you want to keep all of your, maintenance to a minimum, unless you really like to fuss over stuff. But Sally Holmes is one of the easiest roses you can grow. It is got such disease-resistant foliage. It's very slow to get going the first year, second year too, maybe. But once it gets going, you just need to prune it the right time of year, and it is so rewarding. It's crazy. One more climber I want to show you, just because it's in a very different tone than the rest that we were looking at. Polka's beautiful apricot, so is Crown Princess and Bathsheba. Gold, apricot, yellow kind of tones. Well, for a lavender toned one, Climbing Lavender Crush is quite amazing. It's another one that grows pretty much straight upright, and it is so fully cupped and doubled, and the petals all have little ruffly edges. It's really pretty interesting. And if you look at the close-up, the reverse of the petals are white. The inside is lavender pink. And there's just so much going on with this rose. It's a fascinating climber. I'll show you the ones I've got planted at the back of my shaded area up there, and you can see what they look like a year from being in a 5-gallon can, and this year they are 10 feet tall. Talk about vigorous. Absolutely amazing. So you want to grow a climbing rose for so many reasons. You've got a fence line to cover. You've got an arbor to cover. You've got a pergola, and you want beauty, vertical beauty and color and flowers. A climbing rose is an amazing way to achieve all of that. If you're short on space and you really don't have an awful lot except up, classical vertical gardening right there. You can grow a climber on an obelisk, you can grow one on an arbor, straight up a fence, straight up a wall, straight up a barn, and you get roses all over whatever surface you want to grow them on. Now, how do you grow a climbing rose as opposed to the other roses? Really no different. They all want 4 to 6 hours or 6 to 8 hours Actually, they really do want 6 to 8 hours of full sun, but 4 to 6 hours of afternoon sun totally covers all their needs if you're short on that type of space. And when I'm talking about the full sun, we really are talking about the growing season. So between April and October, because you know the way the sun moves and it goes behind your house in the winter, but in the summer it's up and overhead a lot more. It's really April to October, that's when you have to worry about how much sun your rose is getting. And between April and October, it really wants 6 to 8 hours of sun. 4 to 6 hours of that should be afternoon sun. The other thing roses really, really like is good air circulation. So don't plant it in the swampiest bit of your garden that just kind of feels cold and damp, even if the sun is shining on it. You know those bits of your property sometimes you just know a fern would be happier or a water-loving plant would be happier. Your rose is not going to be too happy. It'll grow for you, it'll probably give you a few flowers, but it's going to be susceptible to fungal problems. The bugs are going to get it. So you want to give it as much good air circulation as you possibly can, as much full sun, and good drainage is not vital in your soil, but you definitely don't want it swampy. Roses are pretty tolerant of clay soils too, as long as they're never really sitting in water all winter long. So if you've got adobe, like a lot of East Petaluma does and a lot of other places here in Northern California, you want to amend that soil when you're planting your rose. Other than that, it's all the same as growing a regular rose, only you're playing with vertical gardening rather than a nice tidy bush in the ground. So other plants other classes of roses that could be used as a climber, the rambling roses. Rambling roses are just big, bushy, arching roses that if you don't train them up a thing, just will become one big, giant ball of color. That's what I would like to call it. There's over in Sonoma, I think it's the road going, it might be Arnold Drive. There is a ladybanks rose or 2 or 3 just growing by the side of the road. My goodness, they're not trained on anything, and those roses are as big as a school bus, and they're yellow, and they are gorgeous. So if you've got the kind of space where that works, go for it. Let that rose ramble all over the place. But that is a rose that could be trained as a climber, and it's so, so, so pretty. The other great thing about an awful lot of the modern climbers is that they're repeat bloomers. So you get so much color all season long, just like you would from your other roses. The 1 or 2 absolutely beloved non-repeat bloomers would be the Banksia rose that I just mentioned. There's a yellow, there's a white, there's a kind of a even lemonier yellow one. They really only bloom one time, but it is so spectacular, it's worth it. And of course, the absolutely beloved Cecile Brunner, which really only blooms one time too, but it is so beautiful and so fragrant. If you've got the space for a Cecile Brunner, go for it. They get huge. That is one of my favorites. I don't have any to show you. And right now here in Northern California, they are just about to pop. I pass one on my way to work in the morning, and I keep an eye on that, and it is filling up a tree right now, and the buds are about to open, and it's just the most gorgeous thing. Maintenance of a climbing rose. Not much different from regular roses. Feeding of a climbing rose. Now, if you have your climbing rose in a container, you're going to want to really, really be diligent about feeding and watering. Every 6 weeks or so, get in there with some organic rose food. Other than that, you treat your climbing rose in ground just like you would all your regular roses. That cup of alfalfa meal and Epsom salts just when the buds are beginning to break way back in January, and feeding them with some rose food periodically throughout the growing season is really, really appreciated and keeps your roses healthy, and those climbers will keep on producing buds and blooms all the way till the frost. And look at this, Lavender Crush 1 year after it was planted. Again, this is it's not a container, It's open to the ground beneath, so it's getting all the nutrients it needs. But my goodness, what a vigorous rose. And I love the color. And I planted it here so it grows along a metal grid, easy to fasten, and it's providing shade to my shade plants behind it. So it's performing double, triple duty here. It's providing beauty, fragrance, shade to the plants behind it, and it is so vigorous. I cannot say enough good things about this rose. Relatively new as well. So, you know, I love planting things and discovering this is a real winner. Definitely one I'm going to have every single year. And there you go, everybody. I hope this really helped with the questions about climbing roses. They don't twine, they don't have tendrils, they need to be attached, and they want to be big and rambly, most of them. However, there are such things as small climbers that you can train on a pillar or a post. Basically, a climber is a rose that sends out bigger than normal arching canes that you can then make the most of and train along a fence or an arbor or a pergola or anywhere you want some vertical color. So I hope that was super helpful, and I hope you liked my favorites. Now, having said that about my favorites, I've got a few at home that I also really adore, and I am discovering new favorites all the time. I was in Nevada for a couple of days. I went to the municipal rose garden there, and I discovered a rose that I did not know what it was, but it was so intriguing that I had to track down its name, and it turned out to be called Nevada. Now, when you look up Nevada, they call it a rambling rose, but anything that's 8 feet tall and wide and trained against a fence, to me, is a climber. That may be my next new favorite climber. So, I hope you like this video. If you have any questions about climbing roses, make sure to drop me a line and share with me, what is your favorite climbing rose? I might want to add to my list of favorites. So drop me those comments. Let me know what you love in your garden that is a climbing rose. Find me on Facebook or Instagram, or of course at Cottage Gardens of Petaluma. See you next time, everybody. In the meantime, happy gardening.